Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, that reviews every episode of the ORVILLE. I am your co-host, Michael, and I'm joined by G.I. Jolie.
Hi, I'm here in broadcast order.
Woo! Also joined by Champ Ian. Thanks for joining us, Champ Ian.
Thanks an awful lot. It's great to be here again. Good to see you both.
That's right. Yeah, Oh, that's right. It's Ian's birthday. Happy birthday, Champion.
Oh, thanks, guys. I feel so old.
Yeah, so did you do anything for your birthday?
I don't know. You see, I had COVID a little while ago, and I've just been, isolating all month. And I'm just kind of antisocial and weird. I don't know. I don't feel it. Not to mention it's supposed to snow, isn't it supposed to snow 8 feet here in the next couple of days?
Yeah, it's going to be a blizzard.
I think I might just hunker down with some snacks and some recently legal substances and, I don't know, just hang out with my cat. That's probably what I got on the agenda for tonight.
Sounds like fun to me.
I hear.
Sounds like every other day to me.
A big ORVILLE fan.
I'll get caught up on some more episodes while I'm hanging out. That's what I'll do.
Good. Yes. So yes, today we're going to review episode 4, titled "If the Stars Should Appear." And Ian, you are a resident episode summarizer. Would you care to summarize the plot for this one really quickly?
Well, I'll give it a try. But the ORVILLE finds a giant ship in space, and it's enormous, and they go to investigate, and they find that it's actually a giant, like a biodome ship, right? It's got a civilization of people living on it.
Yes.
And due to some sort of malfunction, this giant ship with all these people are going to crash into a sun or something along those lines. So they board it. They find that the people on board, they don't have a lot of technical know-how. They have no idea that they're on a spaceship. It is a society controlled by an autocratic theocracy. And the members of the crew, I believe Kelly and Alara, get kidnapped and essentially tortured for information.
Alara,
that? Oh my goodness.
Alara gets shot.
Shot.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Kelly gets tortured.
They kind of break off into 2 groups.
Right.
Kelly gets tortured. Bortus has to take the ORVILLE away to rescue a colony ship.
Right.
So they're on their own.
Right.
They call for help, but nobody's there, and they have to figure this out by themselves. And they end up finding the control room, and I think Liam Neeson's there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
And they say, hey, you're on a spaceship. You're actually worshiping the captain. And they open up the sky, and everyone sees the stars. And they live happily ever after? Did I miss anything?
They basically, they kind of have to decide, well, now you know your destiny, now you know what you are, blah, blah, blah. And then they end up opening up the dome that creates the false sky so that everyone can see the actual stars. And then, to be honest, it's kind of a quick ending where they basically say, okay, well, you guys are good. Bye. See you later. If they would have given it an extra 5 or 10 minutes, it could have been a much bigger decision to even, if it was Star Trek, they might not even let them know, right? Because it's kind of like that whole thing about the Prime Directive. But in this show, they don't have that. But it still is quite a bit of a shock. But they also didn't really resolve, well, what happens with all these religious zealots that have been, torturing Kelly and murdering other people. They don't resolve that really at all, right?
No.
So let's just say on one hand, this episode was, I thought, a really good plot, but I feel like that's what really harmed it, is that it didn't have enough time to deal with everything, all the questions that they raised. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it might have done better as a 2-parter.
Right.
I think I think you're right. It lingered a little bit too long on the Kelly getting punched in the face over and over parts, and it didn't spend enough time discussing what's going to happen. what's going to happen to this civilization of reasonably backwards people when all of a sudden the sky opens up? And like, what would happen if this happened on Earth, right? Like, we have no idea what's going on, and then all of a sudden the sky just splits open,
right?
And then like whatever alien force is responsible for it says, "Okay, peace.
Yeah, see you later.
Have fun with that." Like, you just know that civilization burned itself down in the weeks that came after the Orville leaving. They don't have the mental, like, they don't have the experience to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, Jolie, what's your take on this one?
Although they apps like what I loved it. This is one of my favorite episodes because it's got that, unexplored and strange new worlds feel that Star Trek always gives us, because we're always going to have a bar, and that's going to be the original series in TNG. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm always going to bring it up, but I agree with Ian that it focused a lot on Kelly's kidnapping and being tortured by the dictator who runs their little group. What is his name? Dorel is the god, but he is not. No, Kemka is a dissident. Hamalak, the leader.
That's the guy.
That's it.
That's the guy. Tomalak.
That's
the Romulan from Star Trek. Tomalak.
Oh.
Hold on, wait. I'll find it.
Inspired. It's Hamalak. Yeah. So Hamalak is played by somebody named Robert Kepper.
Great actor, by the way. Great actor.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Totally awesome. Again, they give us a great episode, and they answer a bunch of questions. One of those questions being, what cool things can you do in outer space? I don't know. Discover a gigantic bioship full of people who don't know that they're floating in outer space. That's one really cool question. But in doing that, they probably create 1,000 more questions. Like Ian was saying before, and like Mike had mentioned, it really wraps up rapidly.
Yes.
Almost not at all. It's like it was like watching a Band-Aid get stuck on to the end of the episode as they fly away. Kind of like when Harry Potter always flies towards the screen at the end of every movie. And then it like weirdly freeze frames on his face. It was kind of like that for me, where it's like, okay, that's great. The Orville's flying away because Bortus is back with the ship, so they can do that now. But what about Hamalak? Are they going to kill him? Is their whole religion going to change?
Yeah, that part was completely not unresolved, wasn't it? Like they brought the dissident up to watch the video of Liam Neeson, and they said, "Okay, this is who you are now." But the person who's in charge is still in charge.
I know that's
and the person who's in charge is still a crazy theocrat.
Yeah,
and also just the fact that because the scenes with him and Kelly were so realistic that it was actually scary. He's a great actor, and then his only punishment is getting knocked out with a stun ray. That was really unsatisfying. Mm-hmm. It was also kind of weird, to be honest. Going back a little bit, when Kelly was kidnapped, if you remember, they shot Alara, and she rolled down the hill 26 times before stopping. But then they just left her there. Why would they
That's a big problem that I have with this episode.
Right.
Because this militant society, and they just shoot somebody, and they don't take the 15 seconds to either make sure she's dead or to throw her in the truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is an alien, an obvious alien who's landed on your planet. I'm sure she's fine. Just best case decomposing at the bottom of a hill.
Right. Right. Oh, it's weird. It's because we always talk about, how the show struggles a little bit with tone. And things like that. When Alara got shot, it was like bullets that they had to pull out of her chest with like, you know, some kind of ray gun thing. But it was like, that was so realistic, but then, but the way that the characterization of the military was not realistic, so it's weird. But anyway, I don't know, but Julie, what were you going to say?
Well, actually, fun factoid that mostly everybody knows, but it's kind of cool when you didn't know this, was that this is actually the original second episode of the series. But because it tested poorly with the audiences, they moved it to be fourth.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. And I was like, well, I can see why it tested poorly. If this is how it was laid out, maybe it had a different ending, and that's why it was kind of like slapped on at the end where they kind of fly away. I don't know. Yeah.
Something's not right. But but it's like, I love the premise of the show, but it needed more time to develop this concept or something.
It also doesn't surprise me to hear that it's such an early episode, just because it is obviously trying so hard to be a Star Trek episode.
Yes.
Like, it is trying very, very hard. And I believe the original Star Trek touched on this more or less exact plot a number of times. I know there was an original series episode. I forget the name.
For the world is hollow, and I have touched
the sky. That's the one. There's also some elements of Relics, the TNG episode with Scotty, where they find that enormous. We don't learn if it's inhabited in that episode, but the Dyson sphere.
Yeah.
Yep.
As well as, I'm trying to think I think there's one more where there's, at the very least, where there's something that's about to crash into something and nobody believes it. Is it maybe? Oh no, Masterpiece Society. Yeah, I'm talking about TNG episodes that this episode is borrowed from.
Can I point out? I got a couple. While you're thinking of that, I got to point out a couple gags that I'm actually keeping track of which gags I like. So you remember when they were walking along and Isaac was asking, Captain, can you please explain why you and Kelly were not compatible, or whatever he said. And then he was trying to explain it to him. And then later on, when they met up with the, I think it was when they met up with the couple or with the woman in the cabin, Isaac's like, Captain, perhaps she thinks you are not sexually adequate or something like that. You remember that? It was awesome. And then I got another one here. 1 second, guys.
Is this the episode where they call Isaac a dick and he's like, well, what's that mean?
I don't know if it is. Wait 1 second. I got another one here. Wait.
I think you might be right.
And they convince him that being a dick is a compliment.
I don't think he needed convincing. I think he just jumped to that conclusion.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Also, so this is not a gag, but I thought that when the Orville took off with Bortus, at the con, I like the fact that they left a buoy. They're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to take off, so leave a buoy here so at least they know where we went, which I don't think they ever did in Star Trek, but if you think about it, it's a pretty simple and effective idea, right? I mean, not to say that they just abandon crews, all the time on the old show or anything, but it is a pretty cool thing. I don't know, just to think of that little touch, So that was smart. But other than that, but that was the only gag that I actually kept track of. But I thought that was pretty funny.
See, anyway. I don't remember a lot of the gags in this show just because the violence was so intense.
Right.
And that's, again, like I've mentioned this before, the show has difficulty sort of meshing those two things. And I don't think it got it right here. Again, I think the violence was a little over the top. Even in any sort of a sci-fi, like I don't want to see someone getting punched in the face over and over and over.
Right. It's weird. Yeah. Well, especially right. It's also male on female violence. It's kind of odd. But then 2 minutes later, Captain Mercer is trying to break into the headquarters by pretending to be the guy's friend from college. Remember? He's like, "Hey, remember me? Yeah, me and you." And then they just
so you're a guard now.
Yeah.
How's
exactly.
that working out for you?
I mean, it was funny, but it does not fit the tone, right? So,
Do you know what does fit the tone is kind of like a pop culture gag that I know that we discussed pop culture being like a vehicle that Seth MacFarlane uses, is at the start of the episode where Clyden and Bortus, it gives us a little more Clyden and Bortus relationship. And Clyden goes to the replicator and asks for Rocky Road.
Right.
But he asks for a food that would be appropriate for, like, you know,
Like a comfort food.
for a comfort food, and it's
Right.
like they're like ice cream. He's like, okay, what's the most popular flavor? And then he sits down and watches The Sound of Music.
Right. Yes. That was funny.
I loved it. Chad
Yeah,
Coleman, shout out to you for being Clyden's the best Mocklin partner a man could have.
Yep.
He's just so good at playing a sensitive male Mocklin. Truth be
also-
told, I often listen to 16 going on 17 when I am having issues.
We all have our go-tos. But even the joke with Isaac where he says, Captain, maybe she thinks you're not sexually adequate. That's actually something the old Star Trek would do, right? Like Data would do, or maybe Spock. So that is, I think, legit. It's not forced in humor. I think it works, you know? Mm-hmm. So
Isaac's character has been very well written in that sense, that he does a very good job of being a consistent fish out of water.
Right. Which we'll get to in the next couple episodes. I don't know. I guess. Oh, obviously, Liam Neeson. When Liam Neeson comes on screen, I mean, he's just got such presence. I think he's incredible. And then my favorite. I mean, obviously, we all know him from Schindler's List and Phantom Menace, and saying he wanted to kill a black person after one of his friends was raped. But yeah, he's always been one of my favorite actors.
Oh,
so yeah,
boy.
and I just love the fact that these actors are willing to do the show. But anyway, what were we going to say, G.I. Jolie?
So apparently they kept that a total secret from the crew.
Right.
They recorded it, and then when they went to film the scene is when they first played the video from Dorel. And when
really?
it showed up, yeah. So that's when everyone discovered that it was Liam Neeson who was Dorel.
It's incredible.
But they didn't get to hang out with Liam Neeson at all? Like, he wasn't on set with them?
No,
pre-recorded.
They pre-recorded it at a different location.
Oh,
And
well, that's
then
actually
surprised
that's kind of a bummer, though.
It is.
If I was one of the cast, I would have preferred to have been surprised by his actual physical presence.
Me too. I mean, he's got a lot of questions I want to ask.
And by the way, if you're a fan of Liam Neeson and you haven't seen Silence by Martin Scorsese, I definitely recommend you check that out. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say about this episode. I enjoyed it, but like I acknowledge the flaws. Jolie, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say we have to. Which character are we talking about? But
Oh yes. We didn't pick the character. It's like we're flying by the seat of our pants. Who would be a good character to talk about this episode? Should we talk about Kelly?
yeah,
Okay. I will go first. There is something so unusually, attractive about this actress, but she's just so unique. Like, she doesn't look like anyone. She doesn't act like anyone. She's great in this. She's great in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Actually, that's probably the only two things I've seen her in. But I just think she's perfect for this role. I also like it's Seth MacFarlane is obviously very self-aware. The fact that he writes himself to be such a buffoon sometimes, right? But then he puts this actress in her role, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, she's much taller than he is, and I don't want to say he's the George Costanza type, but he's kind of approaching that level. But I don't know. I think she's. At this point, I couldn't imagine anyone else in this role. Ian, what do you think?
She's definitely a very strong character. I think you touched on it perfectly. Like, she doesn't really look like anyone else or talk like anyone else, but at the same time, that's not overpowering. Like, it's not played. It's not played like that. She is just kind of there, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's it's as though she's actually there doing her job.
Right.
She's not acting. She's actually
Yes.
there. And it's that's not to take away from any of the other characters either. But it's just an odd vibe from her.
Right.
It's kind of hard to articulate.
Uh-huh. All right, G.I. Julie, what do you think?
I think she's great. I didn't watch Friday Night Lights, but apparently that's kind of her quote like breakthrough.
Oh, is that Aaron Sorkin?
Friday Night
No.
Lights?
Yeah, no, it's not. No, that's
Peter Berg.
I'm thinking of Sports Night. Okay.
Yeah. So it was an NBC sitcom, not sitcom. It was an NBC like sort of drama about football in the Midwest. And I mean, she's from the Midwest, and I feel like maybe that's why she has this really spectacular vibe and aura. I find like Midwestern American women don't look like your typical like East Coasters or New Yorkers. There's something very trustworthy about their look.
Of course. Yep.
It's like glamorous but unglamorous at the
It's like
same time.
They're honorary Canadians. Yes.
That actually rings true. Like, she reminds me in a sense of like a news anchor in that sense, right? Like just like an every person, someone who's kind of like not different from any of us. She's just kind of part of the community.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's something very... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. And I was going to say, as far as her character in the Orville, initially I remember when we first were watching the show and you were like, what did you think of all the characters? Because like Mike likes to go through one by one, and I hated her because I let my personal feelings guide my feelings about everything. I just couldn't get behind somebody who was a cheater.
Yes.
For like no good reason either. And it felt like the reason that they had built up felt very weak for her to be an adulterer. Like,
right.
You were just not at home a lot. And like they haven't really dived or allowed her and Ed to have a deep conversation about it in front of us on camera.
Right.
So all we really get from her is, well, you were never home. What would you expect? Like that's always the argument about why she cheated. And I don't feel like it's strong enough, and I think she's owed more. And in this episode, it kind of showed us, it's been showing us progressively how deep her character can be, which is nice. She's not so one-dimensional. She's not just like this beautiful adulteress who Ed is like lucky enough to be with.
Right. Yeah, the cheating on him, it's almost like something where they might regret that as the years go on. Like, oh, how can we write this out? Like, if this was a comic book, they would say that she was mind-controlled by someone, right? But
well, I think that they kind of do. Later on, we find out a little bit more about the gentleman because he comes back.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
I forgot about that.
Yep.
Remember, Winnie, remember. He has like a pheromone or something. But
we don't know this yet, though.
We don't know that
this
yet. We don't know that yet.
We haven't seen this episode yet.
We haven't. We're not talking about it. Okay. So anyway, I feel like they kind of hit the reset button a little bit later. I hope so anyway. But yeah, I like Kelly. She's really proven herself to be like loyal to her captain, her crew, and the union, the planetary union, despite Ed's shortcomings. And this was kind of the thing that is redeeming for her, is that she'd rather make Central Perk jokes and throw them off the scent of the rest of the crew, rather than tell Hamelak anything about where to like find everybody. She would die than give up information, and it really says something about her character. It makes her stronger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, it's pretty interesting that the layout of the bridge is that Mercer and Kelly are right next to each other, and because they're a former couple and they're man and woman, it makes them look like mom and dad, right? That's the vibe I get from them. They feel like the parental figures of the crew. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, that's touched on in the very first episode when they're arguing in the ready room, and the crew's like, Borda says, we shouldn't be listening to this. Oh, we're going to listen to this.
Yes.
But they give off the awkward car ride vibes there.
Right, yes. So anyway, yeah, big fan of Kelly, love Kelly. Good episode, flawed, but again, dealing with a very science fiction-y concept, which I really like, right? Mm-hmm. So far, I don't know, I'm liking every episode so far. But yeah, that's it for this episode. We're going to wrap up this episode and thank everyone for listening. There've been a lot of people on our Facebook walls that have been, giving us a positive response. So there's obviously a lot of Orville fans out there. So I want to thank everyone for listening.
I just want to say thank you and hello to Aaron P. from St. Thomas, Ontario.
There you go. Yes, thank you, Aaron. You have no idea how much you've helped us in the last 2 hours. Because, we're still dealing with that problem. But anyway. Oh, I screwed up. Anyway, okay. So, check out every episode of our show on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, not iTunes, that doesn't exist anymore. Apple Podcasts, Twitter.
Does Spotify still exist?
Spotify doesn't exist anymore. By the time this airs, Spotify will be bankrupt. And so wherever you can find podcasts, you will find MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE. So until next week, there's more where that came from.